If the world cannot break you, it will not chase you. Let me repeat that. If they cannot break you, they won't chase you. It's very simple. In the world, you will only be recognized when people can control you. If people cannot control you nor blackmail you, they will never recognize you. Instead, they will resent you and be upset with you. Haven't you noticed? You can even see this in movies. Anytime a character disagrees or goes against the tyranny of someone else, whether it's a boss against his superior or a child against a parent, what do the quote-unquote individual of higher rank says to the one of a lower rank? You wouldn't be here if it wasn't for me. Without me, you're nothing. And that's the mentality of people. They want to determine your worth and your self-worth as a human being. They want to determine it. They want your self-worth to depend on their approval. They don't want you to have worth independent from them. Why? Because if your self-worth depends on them, that means that they have a grip on you, and that secures them from you ever leaving them. And that gives them an advantage that they can leave you. Such individuals they want. People with no self-worth, whose self-worth depends on their approval. Anytime anyone walks into a room and they have stable self-worth, less likely that they are accepted. Most likely others will take offense at it. And if you are a believer and you walk into a room in power, they'll seek to kill you. But enter a room filled with fright, fear, filled with emotion of rejection, and likely people will be happy to have you there. Why? Because they can see potential for them to play God. This may sound very cynical. I'm not cynical. I'm stating things as they are in this world. If you are safe, people will not want to deal with you. A safe individual is an individual they cannot blackmail, nor can they use violence against that individual. That's a safe individual. But there's a thing. If they can't blackmail you and they can't use violence against you, that means that when they are tired of you, they can't unload on you. That means that if they choose to be tired of you, they choose not to like or they choose to have an attitude against you, that attitude will begin to haunt them. And then they'll have to face themselves that they are not gods and that they are just as vulnerable as all other people. Their whole ego will crush. The same ego they've invested everything in. All violent people have an ego they're protecting. That's why they're violent. All violent people have something they don't want to face. That's why they use violence. So if there is someone where they can't use violence upon, that individual is a bigger threat to them than hundreds of predators out there. Violent people prefer to have hundreds of child molesters and foul predators out there than to have one individual in their midst that they can't violate. The individual they can't violate is the individual that obsesses them. You can be in a room and people will be so upset with you that they can't even stand being in the room. But they may shake hands with the prime minister that's ruling the country. What is that? When they see clearly that they can't violate you, then they need to admit that there's some power with you they can't control. And then psychologically realize that that same power that's keeping you safe from violence, including their violence, that power can also be used against them if they go too far. And no such thing as privacy, private lives, none of that will work. When their narcissistic concepts are crushed, they can't handle this. Why do you think that you can talk about any deity, but the moment you talk about Jesus Christ, they don't want to hear about it? Why? Because Jesus Christ rose from the dead. He defeated death. He shook violence off him. the worst type of violence, which is torture and death, followed by death, he overcame it. So that doesn't affect him. And if you follow him and you walk in his power, it won't affect you either. Even if they kill your body, later, when Christ returns, you'll be resurrected anyway. And because you walk in his resurrection power, you can trample on violence in the here and now. What do you think that does to people that rely on violence for their comfort? People that rely on violence for their comfort, when they encounter you that can shut down violence easily, you're going to be a threat to them. Why? Because their comfort depends on them being violent. And their violence can only work as long as it's hidden. But if violence won't work on you and it backfires, it means that the violence will be exposed, and that means their comfort is gone. So what Christ said is true. They've persecuted him, that means that they will persecute us. Christ said, if the world hates you, remember that it hated me first. This world will hate you when you are safe. This world will hate you when you have healthy self-worth. This world will hate you when you have true security. This world will hate you and will become obsessed to exterminate you if they can't break you. Why do you think that at many jobs you have this humiliation ritual once you're new over there? Because people want to get the sense that they can control you. Sometimes they become upset with you, not because of something wrong you've done. Sometimes you're disciplined, not because you've done your job wrong, but just to give satisfaction to the employer, as well as your colleagues, that they have a grip on you. Why is it that in some countries they racially profile certain people? That is to remind the minority that they are in charge. And this is also a warning to the majority that lives in a country that if you get out of line, they will treat you just as bad as they're treating those minorities. It's all to give a narcissistic satisfaction that they are in charge. In this world, no matter what job you do, sooner or later you'll encounter this power politics in which people want to be in charge of you. And they'll use violence to remind you that they demand to be in charge of you. And if you refuse to submit to that violence, they'll seek to harm you further. Or if they can't harm you directly, they will harm your children or someone close to you. That's how they are in this world. That's the sick mentality of these worldlings. Allow them to violate you and blackmail you. You don't allow that, then you have to die. That's how they operate. That's why, as a believer, the moment you cast out the spirit of fear, you cast out the spirit of violence, and the moment you cast out also the spirit of poverty, you cast out those three demonic strongholds: fear, violence, and poverty, because those three go hand in hand. Where there's poverty, violence can easily happen, because people can easily hold on you and abuse their leverage over you if you're in lack. So if poverty is gone, violence is unlikely to succeed. When there is no fear, violence is shut down. So when you cast out fear, you cast out violence, and you cast out poverty. When you cast out those three demonic strongholds from having a hold on you, check how many people still want to see you or want to hang out with you. Likely, when you cast out those three demonic strongholds, many of the people that were cool with you, suddenly they're either frightened of you or they really become angry when they see you. They don't want to see you anymore. So you have to be in a condition where others can violate you and get away with it, and then they want to consider you. You have to be at their mercy, so that you have to follow their terms all the time without ever questioning them. That's what worldlings want. The moment you are strong and healthy and able to call them to an account, they're gone. They're gone. They will ghost you. Some people only got involved with you because they thought they could get a hold on you to blackmail you into submitting to their terms. But later, after dealing with you, they realize that they've made a miscalculation, but they've invested so much in the idea that they can have a hold on you. But once this is obvious, this cannot happen, suddenly they'll ghost you. They're gone. They pretend as if you never existed. Why? Because they feel humiliated. They feel as if you victimized them. They feel as if you scammed them. Because their self-worth depends on them controlling others. And because they've invested in thinking they can control you, they felt at ease with that. But now that that's exposed as false, their self-worth is harmed. They have what they call in psychology a narcissistic injury. And they will blame you for it and rage against you. So sometimes people will turn on you and rage on you just because they see clearly now that they cannot blackmail you nor have a grip on you. And now because they feel upset, they feel humiliated, they will blame you for it. There's nothing reasonable about reasoning with people who are not reasonable. Some people are not reasonable. So reasoning with them is unreasonable. Do not expect reasonable behavior from someone that's unreasonable. Some people just want relief. They don't care what their demand for relief will do to others. The only language they understand is you giving in to what they want on their terms. You don't do that, they'll attack you. Why? Because they'll feel upset now that you don't allow them to be in charge of you. And the moment they turn on you to attack you and it backfires instantly, now they'll play the victim and they'll attack others to feel sorry for them. Because if they attack you and it backfires instantly and it's obvious that they are the bad guys, they don't want this. They will scream, shout, kick, stalk, harass people until people feel sorry for them. That's what they'll do. That's how far it goes with worldlings when they can't control you. So, when the world love bombs you, when the world embraces you, they're so happy to see you, when everything goes so easy for you, when your circumstances are so comfortable, watch out. This world only embraces you if they can exploit you and throw you away as if you never existed. The moment they're obliged to honor you long term, they turn on you already. Because you're not allowed to be something without their permission. They don't want any obligations. They want everything on their terms. It's either their way or the highway. I'm telling you, the world will love bomb you when they see potential to exploit you. The world will love bomb you when they see potential that they can get away with whatever they want. The world will love bomb you when they can get narcissistic supply out of you. The moment you are safe and sound, they're gone. Think about the man that was possessed with a legion of demons that Christ delivered at Gadara. The demons left the man and the demons begged Jesus to allow them to enter the pigs, or you can say the herd of swine. Christ allowed it. And what happened to the herd of swine? The swine lost their minds and drowned themselves. That thing that happened to the swine should have happened to that community, because the community scapegoated that man and dumped their negativity on the man. So all the demons that were with that man were actually the demons who were attached to them. They had to relieve as a community because they could dump everything on this man. Actually, things should have returned to those people and they would have lost their mind and turned on each other. But Christ allowed them to go into the pigs and have to the pigs. Now, when they were exposed to this truth and they saw that their victim was in his right mind, they were so frightened that he begged Jesus to go and never return. That's how a lot of people are. The moment they lost their grip of violence, they became upset and they begged Christ to leave. They couldn't kick Christ out because they knew Christ was able to deal with them, but they began to play the victim and to beg Jesus to leave. Why? Because they didn't want justice. They don't want any justice. They just want relief. And they can't stand that this man here put them in their place. So Christ left when Christ saw that they persisted in their filth. Christ shook the dust off his feet. They've exposed themselves, so there was no way back for them. And that's what God will do to you. God will expose people in your life so that there's no turning back for you. God will do that. God will bring you into difficulty, and those people will think that you're inferior to them because you're in difficulty, and they'll expose themselves by expressing their narcissistic tendencies. And once it happens, and they're frightened and embarrassed because they were so comfortable expressing their filth, and then you're out of difficulty, now they don't dare to come near you anymore. It will be too confronting and too painful for them to face themselves. So now there's no turning back for you to them, and there's no turning back for them to you. God burned that bridge so that you are safe from their violence. So praise the Lord when the Lord is leading you into difficulty. Well, that's it for now. Keep agreeing with Christ, and remember, don't be fooled when the world love bombs you. They don't love you. They only love the idea of them being able to control you and get whatever they want out of you. Be at peace.